Hey, and welcome back to another video here on the channel. And by seeing the title, you'd know right off the bat that this is going to be a special video as it features an unknown Sony Ericsson Prototype. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, you've probably already seen this thing as I posted it a few times. And in those posts, I also promised that I'll do a full-length retro-style prototype review video, but I never really had the time to put it together. But this month, I took the time out of my weekends to put this video together, and here it is finally. Now, I've had this phone for about 5 months at this point, and I'm still not really sure what it is, but I know right off the bat it's very similar to the Sony Ericsson Paris prototype, this phone here, which I covered in this video a few years ago. And I know it's similar in terms that it's a slider phone, it runs Symbian and so on, but the Paris is very clear as to what this phone would have been, its purpose in the market, etc, etc. But this thing, we aren't even sure what it would have been called if it was released, or what its prototype term is. But in this video, we'll definitely go over all the details, the display, the camera, the design, the operating system, everything in detail, and we'll get closer into the whole thing that is this strange phone right in front of you. So finally, here is the unknown Sony Ericsson Prototype here in 2023. So as always, before jumping right in, don't forget to smash that like button down below as it helps this video get on YouTube's algorithm. And also don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below and ring that bell notification button so you're notified whenever I upload a new video. Also, if you have any questions or comments regarding this unknown Sony Ericsson Prototype, don't forget to leave them down in the comment section below. We can start a discussion, or I can answer your questions as well. And my social media I've linked down in the description below as well, which includes Instagram, Discord, and Twitter. And now let us jump right into this video and go over all the details on the unknown Sony Ericsson Prototype. Alright, so firstly we're going to start off with a bit of history on this phone, and to begin with, there isn't really much history on this thing because we really don't know much about it. The phone itself, I can easily say, is very similar, like I already mentioned, very similar to the Paris. And there's another phone that we don't know the name of it either. I'll be probably getting my hands on one very soon as well to complete the trio of Sony Ericsson slider phones running Symbian that were never released. So that phone is not very rare. The Paris is not rare at all. There's a bunch of them floating around. This one, however, is the rarest of the bunch. That I can say downright is easily the rarest of the bunch. So we don't know what it's called, and it's just up to anyone's guess as to what this would have been called if it was released. I'm not gonna try and give it a name or anything like that, but maybe in the future I'll do a bit more research after a while. It'll probably definitely take a while, and we can probably come up with a name for this phone at some point. Oh, made that noise again. So yeah, name-wise, no idea. This is the plate at the back, or the sticker at the back, that shows you all the information. I've covered up the serial number, well, the sort of serial number and the barcodes, but as you can see, it says prototype build, made in Sweden, SP1, etc, etc, etc. And that's all the information that it gives you on this. And if you go into the software here, and you go into the Symbian portion of the software, let me go quickly here, and general, we can look up phone information. There we go. That's all it basically gives you. Software setup, or device information, reference platform, the RAM, the ROM, the version. That's all it essentially gives you in terms of what this phone is. Apart from that, there's nothing else that it has to identify itself from. So that's as far as we can go on. It is very similar to the Paris and that other phone. I'm not really sure what that thing is called either, but that one looks a bit more easier to figure out. This one is similar to the Paris again, runs Symbian, is a slider in some way or another, probably, you know, on the same price range of the Paris if it was going to be released, and the Paris was said to be released as a mid-range slider phone if it was ever released, but of course it was cancelled, and probably around the $250 to $300 price range. So we can assume that if this thing was ever released, it would have been in that range as well. And again, if I refer to the Paris again, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, go ahead and watch that video that I linked up in the first few moments of this video, or you can go ahead and look at it down in the description below. I'll have it linked below, the full retro review on the Sony Ericsson Paris phone. So if you don't understand what I'm referring to, it'll be definitely included in that video. That's a very detailed video. And yeah, as far as I can go in terms of history, that's as much as I can dig about on this phone. There's nothing else that identifies it in any form or another. Nothing in the software, nothing on the outwards of the phone. Maybe if I take it apart, there's something on the inside. But again, with phones like these, I don't really want to start taking them apart because they're so rare, and if I break something, that's it. There's nothing that I can replace it with. And since nobody has done a take apart tutorial on this phone, I'll be on my own when it goes to taking this thing apart. So unless I really have to, phones like these, very obscure, rare prototypes, I would not take apart whatsoever. So that's as far as I can talk about on the history of this phone. I just got it for about $250 or something like that off eBay, and it's just been sitting there ever since now. But since I got the time, I can do a full retro style review video on it and go over all the details that we can find on this phone. Now, for some things like the display and the processor and all that stuff, we'll be comparing it to known model Sony Ericsson phones and assuming that this thing, from being from the same time probably as that other phone, or looking like that other phone, may actually have identical specs. So we're going to assume some of the specs and the display specs, etc., and base them off released phones from Sony Ericsson, which are very similar. So that's as far as we will get into the actual details of this phone without actually taking it apart and looking at things piece by piece. So yeah, now let's jump into the build quality section of this phone and see how well this phone is built. So right off the bat, I can say in terms of build quality, the Paris is slightly better, but ever so slightly. The sliding mechanism on the Paris feels a bit inferior, and the back over here in this area, this is made of metal while this is made out of plastic. But in general, the Paris is slightly a better phone. It has a stylus, it has a metal back. This thing, the back is metal on the inside, but the outside of it is plastic. One thing I don't like about it has this rubber coated plastic here and here at the top as well, which of course becomes really sticky after some time. But overall, the Paris is somewhat of a slightly better phone. It even has that double click keyboard instead of the triple click. It has a double click. We have Q and W, E and R, T and Y. In the old school keyboard, we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. So this is definitely meant to be used with one hand, but just it's one click less when you go to type. But it's not QWERTY, it's just somewhere in between. This thing has the old style triple click keyboard. In terms of sliding mechanism, like I said, this thing has a slightly better sliding mechanism. Let's listen to the Paris first. So a bit plasticky. This feels a bit better, but overall I can tell that the Paris was going to be a slightly higher end phone than this thing, but it's minor. It's just a bit, it's just unnoticeable, honestly. You couldn't really tell a difference in terms of quality if you kept them close by. But then when you start looking at the stylus and the camera slider thing on the Paris and the metal back and all that, it kinda does look a bit more premium than this, but not by a large margin. But in terms of build quality on its own, this phone is decently built. It's not built like a tank, of course. It's a lower mid-range phone probably if it was going to be released, like I said. It's not bad, but it's not great either. The sliding mechanism doesn't move around a lot like a lot of other slider phones. It doesn't move, I mean, it does move, but not a lot. But when you hold it in your hand like that, you don't feel it that much. Like, it doesn't feel that like it's moving that much. It's pretty small, as you can see, and it's definitely meant to be used with one hand. The keys click quite well as well. They're a bit recessed, as you can see. They're a bit towards the recessed side, but they click quite well. And these keys also feel quite decent. these circles like things I've seen on other Sony Ericsson prototypes as well, and those are just sort of button markers. They're not going to be released with the final model. I've seen the prototypes of some phones and the final release of some phones, and these circles are missing, so that's just a prototype thing. So just ignore those things. But overall, a decently built phone, nothing major or nothing flashy, but overall, for a lower mid-range phone, it'll definitely pass. But again, this is not a cheap phone. It's lower mid-range because you can't call it cheap when it runs Symbian. So now let's have a closer look at this phone and go over all the physical details on this thing. Let me bring it closer here. And up front, we can see it has the camera over there, the front-facing camera, and we have the earpiece over here, Sony Ericsson branding. Like I said, just ignore these circles. They don't exist in the final models. You have some buttons over here, and the main keys over here, and we have the microphone over there as well, as you can see there. At the bottom, we have the place to put your lanyard strap over there. Put it around your put it through that circle or loop and put it around your hand. On this side, we have the proprietary Sony Ericsson connector. I keep forgetting what this thing is called. I'll put it up here. So it's the Sony Ericsson JSP 60 or JTS 60 or something like that. I'll put it up there. I keep forgetting what this thing is called, but it's the older Sony Ericsson proprietary connector. We have a place to put your finger and pull out the back cover, and we have the lock button over here as well. Moving on to this side, we have your single click camera button, so no autofocus, just press once to take a photo or video. It's over there. Another place to put your finger and take out the back cover. We have your volume rocker over here as well, so the volume up and down, the volume rocker. Up at the top here, when the thing is open, as you can see, we can see it like that. This thing is in the way, the metal at the back here, and the camera flash, and two places to lock the display in place like that. The two bumps like things so that it doesn't just come out. And we have two screws over there. In the closed position, we can see the power button over there as well. So that's just what's at the top. At the back here, in the open position, again, metal. We have the flash, the single LED flash, screws, and those bumps. The camera. This one seems to have lost its camera cover, like the cover on the metal. The cover on the back cover, plastic back cover. Yeah, it doesn't have the glass, so it may be missing, or maybe it just was never in this prototype. But all you can see is straight up the camera glass over there. Usually there is two, but this one doesn't seem to have it. Then the Sony Ericsson logo here with the branding, the rear firing speaker. And we have the bottom panel like thing here held together by screws, that rubberized plastic. We have a bit over here as well. And that is just the back of the phone. So overall, a pretty decent phone for what it is. Again, lower mid-range, runs Symbian, not meant to be a premium phone, but it's not a cheap phone either. Overall, its design and build quality and feel would definitely pass for what it would have been priced at. So overall, a decent phone in terms of design and build quality. Alright, so now it's time to talk about the display on this thing, and right off the bat I can say that it is a TFT display with 256,000 colors. I also mentioned that previously that it's a actual touchscreen, a resistive touchscreen, and I can say from experience it's got 256,000 colors and is a TFT LCD display, just like the Sony Ericsson Paris. Now, if you watch that other video, you'd know that the Paris has a 2.6-inch display diagonally like that, with 240 by 320 pixels and a pixel density of about 155 pixels per inch, and has a TFT LCD display with 256,000 colors, just like this thing. So perfectly fine for around 2008. And when I was looking at this phone, I noticed that it has somewhat of a smaller display than the Paris when I kept them close together. So I took a ruler and I measured it like that diagonally, and it actually has a 2.4-inch display. So just 0.2 inches less than the Sony Ericsson Paris, so a slightly smaller display. But then that rang a bell. What phone from around 2008 that was released that also ran Symbian, that also had a touchscreen TFT LCD display, which was 2.4 inches? And then it hit me. There was a phone like that. And that is the Sony Ericsson G900. Now, credit to GSM Arena for this article. The Sony Ericsson G900 runs Symbian, has a TFT resistive touchscreen at 256,000 colors, which is 2.4 inches, 240 by 320 pixels, and runs Symbian UIQ. And even the buttons on this thing look very similar to this unknown prototype phone. Now that's very interesting. So right off the bat, using this phone as a basis, we can easily say that if this is 2.4 inches, it also probably has the same resolution as this thing at 240 by 320 pixels. And of course, we can easily tell this has a 4:3 aspect ratio and a bit of a higher pixels per inch pixel density than the Paris, because it's smaller at 167 pixels per inch. So that was a good find. I just remembered that there was an identical phone from Sony Ericsson from the same time with identical specs like that. Hell, this could have easily been the same phone for all we know. They just cut out the sliding portion of things and just went with a bar form factor, because the G900 is a bar phone, and I may get my hands on one someday, and it's kind of a rare phone. If I do get my hands on one, we'll definitely compare it to this thing, because it very well could have been this thing could have been the G900. They just didn't release it in a sliding form factor, and instead they actually wait a minute, whoa, what if this thing could actually have been the G900? I'm recording this on the fly and coming up with theories as we go. This thing could have very well been a prototype for the G900. Damn, I'm recording this thing and came to a realization. We'll definitely explore that theory in the future, but let's keep it on hold for now. They look very similar. They run Symbian, same display size, everything. Huh. That's a good theory for me to test later. But yeah, could possibly be the G900's prototype. They just didn't release it in a sliding form factor, and I'll get my hands on a G900 later anyway. So yeah, that's most likely the display stuff, the resolution and all that stuff, very similar to the G900. Overall, a decent display. It's really bright out in bright sunlight conditions. This is actually medium brightness, and as you can see, it's quite bright. The colors are decently accurate. Of course, they're oversaturated to compensate for a lack in 16 million colors, but they're not too badly saturated like a 65,000 color setup. Overall, the colors are decently accurate. They're sharp. The viewing angles are quite nice, as you can see there. You can see it really nicely in bright sunlight because it's quite bright. And overall, for its time and what it was, it's a perfectly usable display. I've seen many displays like this. They're nothing too flashy, but they were perfect for their time. Now let us discuss the internal specifications on this phone, and surprisingly it does tell you the RAM and the ROM on what's basically running on the inside. When you go to General, scroll down to phone information, and as you can see, it says 122 megs of RAM and 6 megs of ROM, aka 128 megs of RAM and most likely 8 megs of ROM. It's just rounded down for what's actually usable. Now the processor on this thing, I've been debating in my head exactly what it could be. The G900, I couldn't find any information on what the processor could be, but like the Sony Ericsson Paris, the G900 has a similar clocked processor to the Paris. It's funny, we don't know the processor in the G900, but we know the processor in the Paris. It's just some website had listed the processor that was in the Paris, and I'm pretty sure it's the same thing that's in the G900. And the processor in the Paris was a Philips Nexperia PNX 4009 or Philips Nexperia PNX 4009, which is a 208 megahertz single core processor. And that's the same spec given on the G900 as well. So it's most likely the same processor from Philips on the G900, and maybe what's on the inside of this as well. Maybe a bit slower, but it's most definitely a Philips processor of some sort, because Philips was quite prominent for Sony Ericsson processors at the time, for supplying Sony Ericsson with processors back then. It's most likely the same processor, if not something similar, but definitely from Philips, because at this point we've already established that these three phones are very identical. I just hope I had I just wished I had a G900 here to compare. And if you didn't already know, if you go to options here, and I don't remember whether I told you this or not, you go to options, if I can get that to launch, and you look at system information, it's listed as the P200 and shows you Symbian OS and all that other stuff. It's listed as the P200. The Sony Ericsson Paris at one point was also known as the P200 Paris, but later was called the P5i Paris. So The P200 designation is probably a generic designation for phones that were being developed at the time. So maybe it's nothing, maybe it's a generic designation, but it shows you that these phones were being developed at an identical time period, because the Paris was called the P200 as well. Everything else in terms of internal specs, there is no real way to find out. Probably just use the G900 as a basis, but as far as that goes, I can say that's all we have. Just the RAM, the ROM, and the processor for internal specifications on this thing. Pretty similar to the G900 and also similar to the Paris as well. And going off that, the G900 actually had 160 megs of internal memory, while this thing probably has only 8. But of course, the G900 was a released model and this thing was still in a prototype stage, so maybe that's why it wasn't increased. However, the G900 also supported memory stick micro M2 up to 8 gigs, and most likely this thing also supports memory stick micro up to 8 gigs for its expansion. So again, quite similar, but also not very similar to the G900 in that regard. Alright, so now we're in the software section of this video, and as you can see under system information, this thing is indeed running Symbian OS, if you already didn't know that. Phone, Bluetooth, I think those are the builds, and this is Symbian UIQ, which is a variant of the overall Symbian operating system. And we'll take a few minutes here and go over as much as we can in terms of the operating system on this thing. So right off the bat, very similar to the P5i. This thing has, of course, a different color scheme that matches the body somewhat. This golden bronze-ish, it's more bronze than gold color scheme. I really dig it. I've never seen this in any other phone before. It's very, very unique. So this is the main screen. Of course, you can actually edit these. You can change them the way you want, volume and settings. Under that, you can add or delete stuff there. So quite a bit of customization, honestly. Really impressive for a phone at this time. But then again, it was Symbian. It was the dominant operating system in the market. Android and iOS were just in their infancy around in 2008. So yeah, probably still in development at the time that this phone was in development. So it is what it is. This thing was definitely up there in terms of customization and stuff for the price, because already you can see all the options. We haven't even gone into the menu, so a bunch of customization options available on the main screen for you to choose from and just make it your own. You can change this button as well. You can go to media or whatever, and it also changes depending on which slide you're on. So let's go to menu. You can actually press menu here or press that and go to menu. This is your main screen, of course, again skinned to match the exterior of the phone with this background and all of that. Really good selection of colors there. The screen is a bit too bright, is it? So let me actually go ahead and reduce the brightness here if it allows me to, because sometimes these things won't let you change the brightness and stuff. Handheld, dim, that somewhat helped. So let's see. Yeah, somewhat helped. It doesn't really make a difference, because again, this phone has a software setup incorrect. So there we go. I was just gonna say software setup incorrect, and it keeps popping up. So there's something really wrong with this thing's overall software setup. So some settings may not set as intended, and you'll see in a bit as well when we go to jump into the camera. Sadly, we can't get camera samples out of this thing because it doesn't save the image, which is quite a bummer. But let's go to the let's go back here, and we have our main screen. So up here we have software setup. Nope, go away. There we go. Play Now, of course, Sony Ericsson Play Now. We have the web, we have entertainment, media, messaging, calendar, location services, contacts, widgets, settings, organizer, and calls. And it goes back there. You can actually switch to grid and list view as well over there, and you can open a folder or move folders around as well. So going into Play Now, let's see if it even opens. I've never actually tried that before. So of course we don't have internet, so you need internet for Play Now. Let's go into web. Again, no internet, so it it tries to connect to the internet. There you go. It's default set to Google as a search engine. You have a bunch of stuff there as well. Close, tabs, bookmarks, blah, 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 blah. And then we have entertainment over there as well. Why did it show me something else when I hovered over web earlier? I don't know. But yeah, entertainment, camera, track ID, come on, go away. Track ID, fun and downloads, radio, my applications, video, phone, web feed, secure downloads, dashboard, music, DJ, sound recorder, games. We'll look at games in a bit, but first I want to go to my applications. I don't think this thing has anything installed, so sadly we can't show you that. Video camera, it's separate actually. This is the front-facing camera. You can basically start a audio call with that. As you can see, the front-facing camera. So yep, you can access it from the camera as well, but also video camera as well. And then video camera as in video call camera is what they mean. Video phone, there we go. So it's called video phone. So video call phone, whatever. Secure downloads. Again, no internet, so it is what it is. Dashboard, see what's under that. And you can actually add or edit or change stuff over here. Add widgets, that's actually your dashboard up there, your main home screen. Music, DJ, a sound recorder, and we have games. There's Sudoku, again, pretty simple on how you play Sudoku. We'll just do a quick demo in a bit, but let's go down to media. So you have photo, music, video, nothing up there. Your simple old setup, or your simple old Sony Ericsson screen for media. Messaging, of course, nothing under there. Unread inbox, it's all empty. Calendar, let's see. Okay, so June 2008, so probably when this phone was manufactured. That's a good hint to when it was manufactured. Location, services, WF navigator, status info, settings, basic stuff. You have contacts, of course it's going to be empty. Then we go to widgets over here. So we have download, we have CNN, Facebook, weather, Google, YouTube, so some preloaded widgets. We have calls over here. Then of course there's nothing on this phone. Then we have your organizer, so a bunch of stuff under organizer, file manager, time and alarms, tasks, node speed, contacts, exchange, active sync, remote sync, converter, timer, stopwatch, calculator, torch. I've never tried the torch. Let's see if this flash actually works. Yeah, it does work. Nice. So that's something I've never tried before. So you can actually use that torch, and you can time it for 1 minute as well. Let's see what SOS does. Oh, it's a blinking effect. So yeah, somewhat like an SOS signal. So off. It actually could be Morse. It could be in Morse. I'm not sure. Let me do that again, and you tell me down in the comment section, is it blinking in Morse or not? If you know Morse code. It actually could be, because it's there. Yeah, there's a bit of a difference in the interval. So let me know if it's blinking in Morse down in the comment section below. That would be interesting to know. So if you know Morse code, go ahead and tell me. We have Quick Office as well down there. There's a bunch of other stuff under Quick Office, of course, readers and PDF readers and all that stuff. Quite a lot of stuff for this phone for such a small slide phone. Actually really impressive. Bus card scanner, so you can have your bus card on this thing as well, and connections as well. Let's see what's under connections. Nothing. Bus card scanner, let's open that. It's probably just like you can download your cards to your bus or your train or whatever and use it off that, just show it to the bus driver or the train conductor. So that's impressive. Really impressive software setup we have here. Then go into settings. We have general, time and date, time zone, language, shortcut key. You can actually change the shortcut key over here. You can modify it into whatever you like. Media, messaging, blah, 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 blah. Oh, no, wait, that's not the shortcut. That's the camera key. There's another shortcut key somewhere here that you can modify to one of the keys. I think it's the C key. I'm not sure. But yeah, you can modify your shortcut key there. It's set to messaging by default. I forgot which key it is. That's the lock. That's the camera. There's a shortcut key somewhere here. But anyway, input mode, primary input, secondary input, input settings, setup wizard, storage wizard, format memory cards. Let's see what's on the storage wizard. So your language and your memory available. And then, so there we go. That's something strange. it actually says 151 megabytes. I would have edited the video early and showed you that it actually shows 151 megabytes in Storage Wizard rather than 6 megabytes or 8 megabytes as I showed you in the text section. So that was a bit weird. I noticed that a bit later, that it actually shows you 151 megabytes, which is similar to the 160 on the G900. So it's actually 160, it just shows as 150 available to use. So again, very similar to the G900. I edited that in earlier because while I was doing the specs section, I couldn't see that on that screen. For some information, for some reason, phone information shows you only 6 megabytes of read-only memory, but under Storage Wizard it shows you 151 megabytes. So that's quite interesting. You have your install and uninstall, master reset and stuff as well over there. And then you have your settings, display, software, sound and alerts, calls, connectivity, messaging, security, etc, etc. So a very interesting operating system. Quite a lot of features, honestly. I don't know if all of those features would have been included in the final release, but definitely a ton of customizability and features for such a simple, small phone. Big thumbs up Sony Ericsson for putting all that effort into this phone in terms of customization and features. So let's actually go into a bit more detail on the customization here, and then we'll do a game demo as well. So wallpaper, if you go into wallpaper, you can see the dimness or the brightness of the wallpaper. You can actually adjust it, or the amount that's visible. And under themes, there's this one theme that's called clarity. The default is this one, clarity. Let's actually select clarity there, and it takes a while to apply. Of course, the phone is pretty slow. Applying theme. And come on, I did it earlier. There we go. And we can go back, and as you can see, the icons are the same. It's still got that bronze-ish, but the theme overall is a bit different. It's just sort of the wallpaper and the background, nothing major, but that's the theme stuff under display. Let's actually put it to the old theme. I like it better, the default theme. Close, let's go to default. Select. Some of these options are actually more stable than I thought they would be. So it's applying the theme now. It's gonna take a while. You have screensaver, user greeting, standby application, backlight, and number formats as well. And then you can go under screensaver. There's nothing under screensaver. You have to add stuff. User greeting, it just shows what the text basically says on the main screen when the phone is starting up. Standby application, backlight. You can change the backlight setting, of course, like I showed you earlier. Number formats, etc, etc. Now let's go into the games and I guess play Sudoku just a bit, see what it's like running. Of course, I wish I could load more games onto this thing, but considering this phone is barely ready for the market, I can tell you that trying to run games on this thing would be a bit of a pain in the butt, especially without the signatures and all that stuff. Loading Symbian games onto this would be a bit annoying to say the least. But let's try Sudoku. I don't really know how to play that anyway, but let's give it a try. So it's a Java game, and digital chocolate, English, enable sounds. Yep. Where's the sound? Volume buttons. There we go. Done. Takes a while to load. Such a simple game, that's taking quite a while to load. There we go. Go to cafe, play Sudoku. Very easy. I don't know how to play this game, never played it, don't really care. Is this like Minesweeper or something? I don't know. If you put like a number, how do you play this thing? You put, oh right, oh I get it. So you write numbers, you match. Oh, you have encountered a conflicting, I don't know what I'm doing, but yeah, you get the gist of it. It's just a puzzle sort of game. I don't know. I don't know jack about this game. Let's go back to the main menu. And yeah, that was just a quick demo for the games and the themes. And yeah, that's as far as I can talk about the operating system on this thing. Really impressive. There's a lot of stuff on this phone that that actually, come on, let's go back. There we go. So a lot of stuff on this phone that I was surprised. So many features for such a small, compact phone. Good job, Sony Ericsson, doing all of that, at least in prototype stage, testing out all of that stuff. We don't know if all of this would have made it to the final model, but a lot of features for such a small phone, a lot of customization as well, which could be expanded upon with downloads and stuff like that. So really impressive user interface as a whole and operating system. And now we're in the camera section, and right off the bat I can tell you that it's just another bummer, and a very common bummer when it comes to reviewing prototype phones, and that's the camera does not work. Well, the camera does work, as in you'll see the image through the viewfinder. Let me show you here. So you can see the image perfectly fine through the viewfinder, but when you go to take a photo, save failed. There have been problems saving. So regardless whether it's phone memory or memory card, it doesn't matter, it has problems saving the photo, and when you do take it, sometimes it just crashes like that and it gray screens. So yeah, there's a problem with the camera saving system. It's just coding, it's straight up coding. It has not been coded properly into the phone. The camera itself works, but it just can't save the image, which is quite a bummer. So you may think, oh, let's just go look at that other video you did on the Sony Ericsson Paris, because the Paris actually had a working camera that I could show you samples from. No, that's not the case, because the Paris has a 5 megapixel camera and this thing has a 3 megapixel camera, as you can see there. So yeah, you can't really use the Paris's photo set using that other video, so that's kind of a bummer, because the Paris has a considerably better camera, and so does the G900. The G900 also has a 5 megapixel camera. So I don't really know what to compare this thing to. If you could find a Sony Ericsson phone from around the same time in 2008 with a 3 megapixel camera, let me know down in the comments section below, and let everyone else know as well, so you can compare it to that. But I can't give you samples of this because it does not save. The video resolution, it doesn't tell you either. It just gives you an option to select high quality video versus video for picture messaging or video messaging or whatever, but it doesn't tell you the quality itself, even if you select it and you have your flash and you have all your other settings, but it doesn't tell you the quality, which is kind of a bummer. Self-timer, effects, microphone, auto review, that's all they basically give you. So kind of a bummer. Can't tell you the video resolution, neither can I tell you the camera resolution, the camera photo quality or the video resolution, but the video resolution is most likely VGA or QVGA at about 15 FPS. It's probably my best guess, but yeah, it's a 3.15 megapixel camera. There's it says 3 megapixel, but it's 3.15 most likely, and that's about it I can tell you. And it's got a flash. That's basically it. The flash is on the slider, of course, and the camera is down here. That's all I can tell you in terms of camera, because of course the camera does not save, which is kind of a bummer. But then again, with these prototype phones, that's somewhat expected. I was actually surprised when the camera on the P5i actually worked, and I was able to Bluetooth the photos to my old PC using the inbuilt Bluetooth system, Bluetooth the photo and the video sample as well. So you can still go watch that, but I can't guarantee it's going to be same, because that's a 5 megapixel, this is a 3.15. But again, it is what it is when it comes to prototype phones like this. Alrighty, so now let's demo the speaker and some of the ringtones on this phone. And as you can see, the speaker back here is a single mono speaker, and I've tested this before and it's not very loud at all. So ringtones, let's max the volume up here. Come on, software setup incorrect. There we go. We have increasing ring, which means that the tone or the loudness increases as the phone keeps ringing. We have voice call, video call, data, and fax as well. And let's just go ahead and save that setting there. So the volume stays at full, and this thing has only 6 ringtones on it, and that's just because this phone is incomplete. It's a prototype, and I'm pretty sure it's not loud enough because the software hasn't been adjusted for the speaker output yet, so that's probably why, and you'll hear that in a bit. So we have the ability to go from phone ringtones there to memory card ringtones as well, but then again, I don't have a memory card in this thing. Let's listen to the 6 ringtones that are on this thing, which kind of sucks. There's just 6 of them, but it is what it is. This thing kind of goes back sometimes like that. Come on, there we go. Find sound, and let's listen to bounce back here. High alert. Not loud at all. There you go. So those are all the ringtones on this phone. It's not very loud and there isn't much to select from. Even the Sony Ericsson ringtone, if you heard there, is not complete. It kind of cut short at the end. But yeah, that's as far as we can demo on the speaker and the ringtone. It's incomplete. There aren't many ringtones on this, but I'm pretty sure if this thing was ever released, they would have adjusted the speaker volume and added more ringtones. Of course, it can be just 6 like that. But yeah, that's basically all we have for ringtones and speaker. Now, after digging around in this phone, looking for anything unusual in terms of features, any special features that only pertain to this phone, or you know what I'm talking about, I couldn't find anything of the sorts. At the end of the day, if this phone was released, it would have just been another slider phone with nothing special to it. Like I said, it would have been on the cheaper end of things. And apart from the fact that it's a prototype, there's nothing else overly interesting about this phone. There's nothing that sets it apart in terms of special features or anything like that. It just has all the usual features you'd find from a lower end or mid-range slider phone or just any phone at the time. There's basically nothing out of the ordinary to talk about, like a feature that was never released or a prototype version of some game or some untested, you know what I'm talking about here. I've dug around this phone and I just couldn't find anything out of the ordinary for this phone. It's just a basic slider phone. And yeah, there's nothing else I can talk about this thing in terms of extra features because it doesn't have any. But yeah, we can now take the battery cover off and we'll have a look inside the battery bay and talk about battery performance and stuff like that. Again, these are going to be estimates, but these are the best estimates that I have somewhat come up with after looking at other devices at the time as well. Alright, so I've taken the battery cover off here. Let me bring it closer here. We have Sony Ericsson Prototype, not for sale, not type approved, prototype build SP 1.1, bunch of numbers over there. I've covered up the serial number as well. Made in Sweden. This is where your memory card expansion goes, and that's where your SIM card goes. In terms of battery bay, there's nothing out of the ordinary apart from it saying prototype and stuff there. There's no open connectors for external hookups for like testing the connectivity and stuff that you see on some acceptance units and stuff. This thing probably never even got close to acceptance stage on any Courier, so we don't have such attachment points like that. Here is the battery for this thing, which is the BST33. This is a 1000 milliamp hour battery. And going off the numbers on the G900 again, the Sony Ericsson G900, it was rated at 380 hours of standby and about 12 hours of talk time. So that's probably the closest we'll get to estimating what this thing also could do in terms of battery performance. But then again, it is an estimate, but it's probably a very close estimate considering they're from an identical era and they had the same battery and they're pretty identical in terms of size and stuff like that. But yeah, that's as far as I can talk about battery performance and power, because I mean, I've used this phone with a few of these old batteries. I've kept it on standby for a day or two. The battery dropped a bit. It's hard to tell. Again, this phone is incomplete. The software is barely together. It freaks out sometimes. It throws that code and all that stuff. So that definitely hinders battery performance. So estimating its battery performance on prototype software like this and the rest of the hardware as well is kind of unfair. It probably would have been fine-tuned before it was released, if it was ever released. So in the case of this, it's almost impossible to tell what exactly the numbers were, but those are pretty decent estimates. So finally, we have come to the end of this video, and I hope you enjoyed this video again of a prototype phone that was never released, something that could have been a pretty decent phone in my opinion, but was chosen to be cancelled quite far into its development stage. I believe that they would have gone with this hardware setup here, but of course the software would have been a bit more fine-tuned, but we would never know. Again, let me know in the comments if you have any information on this phone that I missed. Maybe you know someone who owns one of these or something like that. This one is definitely not the only one out there. I've seen many photos of this phone. It's not the most rare Sony Ericsson prototype ever, but let me know if you have extra information regarding what this phone would have been called, what price range it would be in, what's its predecessor, what its successor would have been. I don't know, anything you need, anything you know about this phone, please let me know down in the comment section. I'd love to know and make, of course, a follow-up video with updated information. But as far as this video goes, that will be all that I cover on this phone, as that is all I know about this phone as of the release time on this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to smash that like button down below and hit that subscribe button as well if you want to see more content from me. And if you have anything else to say about this phone, let me know down in the comment section below. We can start a discussion and I can answer your questions. Also, if you did subscribe, don't forget to ring that bell notification button, then it'll notify you whenever I upload a new video. My social media is linked down in the description below, which includes Instagram, Discord, and Twitter. Thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in my next video.